First of all, like, comment, and subscribe. It helps the algorithm. Want to know what an authoritarian power fantasy looks like? Enter Mark Waid and Kwanzer Osojeffo, two of the most racist people in mainstream comics. They really, really hate European people, especially blondes and redheads. Green and blue eyes drive them insane with rage. They loathe white people. Kwanzaa is, okay, let's just say things I can't say on YouTube. Let's just say Kwanzaa and Waid are not part of the groups that they attack. Waid and Kwanzer sat down and legitimately thought that this was a good storyline. The students were the victims of a school shooting. Of course, school shootings are pretty rare. Most homicides are by something I can't say on YouTube. Let's just say not by white kids. I wonder why Mark Waid and Kwanzer didn't make a comic about inner city gangs. In fact, most school shootings are also by, can't say that on YouTube either. Let's just say not by Euro-American kids. There is this weird belief that school shooters are Euro-American kids, i.e. white devils. They aren't. They are by, let's just say, not them. The reason you think it's white kids is because the media won't cover non-white school shootings. You have to actually read the newspaper or watch alt media for the news. Every time the media won't show a picture or describe the suspect's race, it's because they aren't of European descent. Even with someone like Zimmerman, the media called him white and lightened the photo they used. The media has a very strong anti-Euro agenda. When you look at other photos of Zimmerman, he clearly looks Mexican, but that doesn't support their narrative. Basically, the story is a group of teachers want to be armed so they can protect the students. But the SJW students, who are super-powered metahumans, don't like the idea of teachers protecting their charges because guns are bad, presumably because of their ability to use force to hurt people. Except that the superpowered SJWs also use force to hurt people, and they answer to nobody. So it's basically Mark Waid's authoritarian power fantasy. Of course, Waid, can't say that on YouTube. No, I'll say Waid knows that in other countries, other certain teachers are armed to protect their students. So again, Mark Waid doesn't want Americans to have the means to defend themselves, but he creates superpowered SJW characters who do have the ability to protect themselves by using force. None of this story makes sense. The students are still recovering from a traumatic event, but Mark Waid has a group of Antifa fascists terrorize and torture the students who have the audacity to want their teachers to protect them. What did I do there? So, yes, nice, lovely red hair. There's so many redheaded kids in Arizona. So instead of allowing the kids time to recover, Waid and Kwanzer torture them further. How do they think that they are the good guys? This should be called Strawman the Comic. First of all, in the Southwest, you're not going to find all these blonde-looking Aryan kids. It's basically northern Mexico. In fact, Spanish would be the language you would most likely hear, not English. And the majority of shootings in Arizona are by Mexican Americans. In fact, almost zero homicides are committed by the alt-right. Most violence is done by the alt-left. The comic keeps claiming the alt-right is everywhere. Well, Mark, I hate to break it to you, but it's perfectly fine and legal to be alt-right or alt-left in America. You are free to be a Nazi or a communist. And if anything, the communists slaughtered 100 times as many people as the Nazis. So why does Waid obsess about the Nazis and ignore the much greater violence of the communists? Because, they're hiding everywhere, except we can't seem to find them. So the alt-right is basically people who disagree with us. Oh, you mean they espouse to the alt-right beliefs of an ethno-state? No, not exactly. It's just, people who disagree with us. But doesn't that term have a definition? Well, it means what we want it to mean. In Mark Waid's deposition, he was calling Richard Meyer an alt-right Nazi or something, and the attorney was asking him, saying well, Meyer doesn't seem to be, and what do you consider all right these days, and are white supremacists or something? And Waid had to admit, well, the term is very broad. Well, then, does it even apply if you're basically saying it? He's saying African Americans, Mexican Americans can also be white supremacists. So then the term is completely meaningless. You're just using the term to defame somebody publicly, pretty much. Anyway, so why does Waid and his crowd ignore the violence of the communists? Because Mark Waid and his allies are communists. They actually believe that killing hundreds of millions of people is an acceptable price to pay. Yeah, these hiding in the crowd. These days, the alt-right go low-key. They're so low-key, they almost don't exist. In a country of 1/3 of a billion people, how many people you think are actually alt-right? A few thousand? America is never going to be an ethno-state. Everybody knows this. America is about half European. It's about, I don't know, a big chunk, about 1/3 Mexican American, and about 13% African, and then the small group that's left over is just from all over the world. And if anything, in 200 years, it might be a Mexican-American ethno-state, but Mexicans themselves are also mixed. They're from Spain. There's a percentage of the lighter-skinned ones have more Spanish blood, and the darker-skinned ones have more native Mexican blood. But the thing is that the Mexicans themselves, I mean, the Indians pre-Spanish, they were from Eurasia. They walked across the land bridge, 50,000 years ago, and they themselves are mixed from Southeast Asians and some European blood. So I think they're like 75% Southeast Asian, 25% European. So the Mexicans themselves are Eurasians, and then they mixed further with more Europeans. So Mexico right now Mexicans are not a race. They're a nationality, a group of mixed, mostly Spanish and Eurasian blood, New World Indian blood. So it's kind of like they have this weird racist organization called La Raza, the race, but it's not. It's a race. I mean, Mexico is comprised of. It's weird. It's kind of weird. Anyway, people like Mark Waid, a California millionaire, has this fantasy that if the communists come to power, Mark Waid would find himself in a high-ranking position. He wouldn't be sent to the gulags to starve to death. He thinks that he would be sending others to the re-education camps. Mark Waid doesn't seem to realize that he is merely a useful idiot, and useful idiots are the first to be put up against the wall and shot. The people who brought Stalin and Mao to power were gone after a few years, assassinated or sent to the gulags. Ignited is the workers' paradise that Kwanzer and Waid think communism will usher in. One where a small group of all-powerful communists will rule brutally over the peasants. And that is definitely how Waid sees other humans. Other humans are merely peasants to him, merely objects to be used and destroyed. Most people would call that a master-slave relationship. What else would you call it when a small group uses force, violence, and intimidation to control and rule over a larger group of formerly free people? Well, folks, that is called terrorism. Mark Waid and Kwanzer have written a comic where the protagonists are violent terrorists. Because Waid and Kwanzer are effing idiots. Mark Waid may have been able to write prior to Trump derangement syndrome, but he has completely lost his mind. His run-in with Comicsgate and diversity in comics just made things worse. As for Kwanzer, judging by his past work and his social media, I have come to the conclusion that he's just dumb. Just plain old low IQ. He's just a dummy. He's just a dumb guy. And the thing with protected classes like Kwanzer is that he will never get any honest feedback from the people in his echo chamber. Because the one thing liberals like Mark Waid are terrified of is criticizing any African American's work. They won't do it. They are terrified of being called racist. So they will allow bad writing, bad storytelling, bad art to go forward because they'll never say a word against it. That is the soft bigotry of low expectations, but it's also the worst thing you can do to somebody. The best thing you can do to somebody is legitimately, fairly, and honestly criticize their work. Just, hey, this storyline doesn't make sense. It's logically inconsistent because of this flaw in the plot right here. This art looks like garbage because the body is out of proportion, and you didn't do it on purpose. You just did it because you weren't, I don't know, you're not familiar with the anatomy or something. Yes, that's why Kwanzer is a purse puppy to people like Mark Waid. Mark Waid treats people like Kwanzer, I don't know, as a trained, literally a purse puppy, something cute and adorable to keep in your purse and take out and show off to people. And look, I'm working with an African American. Oh, you guys working together, criticizing each other's work? No, not exactly. We live in an echo chamber. We're not allowed to criticize each other's work because we are in protected categories. Anyway, how dare I call Kwanzer dumb? Don't you know that he has several books out? Please go read Black AF. It's written by an alcoholic with Down syndrome, or a Kwanzer. In fact, units of dumb should just be measured in Kwanzer units. Kwanzer is so dumb he doesn't know he is dumb. He strongly overestimates his ability to write a logical, coherent story. But to be fair, Mark Waid is even dumber than Kwanzer because Waid, who is 1.3 Kwanzer units of dumb, chose to work with him. Waid doesn't need to work with Kwanzer. Can I just call him African Christmas from now on? Mark Waid and Kwanzer African Christmas Osojefo, government name Dwayne Smith, are the ultimate Dunning-Kruger of comic team-ups. People are reading Ignited and laughing, but they are laughing at the childish storyline and the insane logical fallacies throughout the book. We are laughing at Waid and Kwanzer, not with them. In case you missed it, the basic idea of the book is teachers want to protect students from acts of violence. Concerned parents want to protect the students from violence. Waid and Kwanzer look at each other and say, whoa, 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 we can't have that. These parents and teachers must be alt-right fascists. Keep in mind, in Arizona, the teachers, parents, and the students are 90% Mexican. Of course, Waid and Kwanzer know this, but it doesn't fit their anti-white agenda. So everyone is a blonde, blue-eyed Aryan. We get it, Waid, we get it. You really hate Germans. So not only does this comic have the... you're never going to see this many blonde people in Arizona, or the American Southwest in general. Blonde. No, that doesn't exist in the Southwest. The Southwest is 90% Mexican. In 100 years, America will be speaking Spanish. It's definitely, it's an absolute Mexican takeover. The mathematics do not lie. Okay, so the First Amendment covers speech, redress of grievance, assembly, freedom of religion, freedom of the press. So this Mark Waid and Kwanzer are saying they don't like the Second Amendment. They don't want you to protect your civil liberties, your Second Amendment protections. But they also don't want to protect, they are against the First Amendment. Lawful assembly, freedom of the press, freedom of speech. Mark Waid and Kwanzer Osojefo are the bad guys. They are the totalitarians. They are Stalin's Russia and Mao's China, or Fidel's Cuba, Pol Pot and Papa Doc, and they're the worst people in history. Well, the second to worst people in history. There is one group worse than the communists. So Waid and Kwanzer, aka Idiots Incorporated, decided it would be a brilliant idea to have these superpowered Antifa kids torture and murder their fellow students, teachers, and concerned parents because they want to prevent future potential acts of violence by torturing people to death. Oh, hey, look, torturing someone to death right in front of us. Look at that. Look at that. It's like poison gas treatment that was outlawed after World War I. The what is it? The Treaty of the Hague, when they outlawed hollow point bullets and poison gas, chlorine gas, mustard gas, that type of thing. Mark Waid and Kwanzer Osojefo, I know Mark Waid at least knows history. Kwanzaa's just dumb, but Mark Waid is not dumb. He knows his history. He's just, I guess he's borderline personality disorder. Something's wrong with him. Something is wrong with everyone associated with this stupid comic book if they think these are the good guys. You're torturing people to death to violate their First and Second Amendment rights. I mean, they're not the agency of the state, so you can't say they're violating due process or cruel and unusual punishment. But these superpowered characters are using force to tell a story that they don't agree with the use of force. This is so insane. This doesn't make any sense. The self-awareness is zero. If you have these superpowered kids, wouldn't you have them simply protect the students? None of Ignited makes sense. The Antifa kids are hurting the people who want to protect the students. How did they possibly think this plot idea would work? It's insanely dumb. The only way the convoluted plot makes sense is when you realize its main point is 1, F Europeans, and 2, self-defense is bad. Only the authoritarian state should have power. I looked up Ignited on Comicron. Now, Waid and Kwanzaa may be racist ideologues, but they are both huge names with tons of followers and plenty of free publicity from their fellow socialists in the media, so one would expect the book to sell pretty well. The first issue sold a whopping 9,000 issues. Not 90,000, but 9,000. Well, that sucks, but surely once people see how great it is, they will flock to buy the second issue, right? The second issue sold 4,200 issues, less than half. When you only sold 9,000, they should have canceled the book right then and there. But 4,000 issues is Mag's Visaggio territory. That is embarrassingly bad. Mark Waid has sunk to Mag's level. Maybe Waid should put on a wig and some lipstick and be stunning and brave. Anyway, as you can tell, this pissed me off a great deal. In fact, this is the second time I had to make this video, because the first video, let's just say it was a little too red-pilled for YouTube, so I had to heavily edit it, redact, and censor certain truths, because on YouTube, unless you're left-wing, you're not allowed to speak truth to power. But I put it on BitChute, and I'll put the link in the description. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe, and be sure to check out Ignited by Mark Waid and Kwanzaa Osajefo. Maybe issue 5 will sell over 3,000 issues. Anyway, I'll see you next episode.